Hello, hello, hello. Welcome,
Hello.
everybody, and thank you for joining us live for From People Pleasing to Peaceful Power Leading Without the Noise. I am Sharon Hurley Hall, mentor for introverted changemakers, author of I'm Tired of Racism, founder of Sharon's Anti Racism newsletter, and the Share Anti Racism community. Nikki, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you so much. It's so good to be on opposite sides of the world and still be chatting here to you and to anyone else who's watching live. I am Nikki St. Paul and I am a leadership identity coach. And really, I am also the good girl slayer. Yes, turn convicted woman. So I am really about how women in business, women who are building businesses, building empires, wanting to make change in the world, can really spot and slay the good girl conditioning that society has kind of placed upon them that says who you need to be, how you need to show up, what you need to, how you sell, what good looks like, all of those things so that you can build the business, make the money, stop undercharging, stop like over delivering, and stop burning yourself out. So, all of those things I've been through, and that's the work that I do in the Good Girl Slaying community. So, yeah, hopefully, that is giving people a bit of a taster of what we're going to chat about today.
That is amazing, Nikki. And you know, we've known each other for a while now, and it was interesting. And we've been planning to do an event together for quite a while, and I'm so glad it finally came together. So let us talk a little bit about growing up quiet, because it was interesting when we were talking before the event that we have slightly different versions of what quiet is. So mine is coming to realize that I was an introvert quite late. I don't think I knew it when I was a child. I just always knew that there were so many spaces and experiences that left me feeling emotionally exhausted and
Mm.
really just burned out. Even as a child, and my favorite place to hang out was in the library, where it was me, my book, and the librarian, right?
Mm.
And I was that. I hadn't got to the point of figuring out that I had a voice. I just knew that the expectations that society was putting on me as a
Mm.
girl growing up in the Caribbean did not match the way that I like to be. And there's all this, oh yes, let's hug auntie and uncle, let's talk. Why isn't she talking? She's too quiet. Is
Yeah.
she shy? All this kind of thing. And of course, as we know, none of that was the truth. I'm actually not shy at all. I mean, you've been in rooms with me, and you know I can
Yes.
talk,
Yes.
right? But it was really about figuring out what my what my neurotype is, what kind of person I am, and then learning to honor that. But we'll get to that in a little while. Um, and in terms of what we're going to talk about later, growing up Caribbean definitely is one way to reinforce that good girl conditioning. And I'm just going to
Yeah.
leave it at
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So
Yes. We
tell me
know. We
about
know.
your version, your
Yeah.
version of quiet.
Yeah. This is such an interesting thing because anyone who has known me growing up probably wouldn't describe me as quiet. They wouldn't use those two words together. But actually, I think what we're going to share today is that there is more than one way to define something. And the way that I see quiet from my own personal experience, and maybe somebody else can resonate with this, is that I was very chatty. I did not have an issue with talking. And I talked a lot. And in fact, I was always told off for talking too much. And so, because of that, you may think, well, she's not quiet. She's always talking. She's a chatterbox. All of those things I heard growing up. But actually, growing up as the only black girl in my entire school, both for primary school and secondary school, what happens from the good girl's perspective is that you try to fit in. So as human beings, our sole purpose is to survive, to not be rejected
Yeah.
from the crowd is, and so the best way to do that when you physically stand out is to blend in. To blend in, even though you can't blend in physically because you look so different, right? And so it was a case of I'm just going to say and like what everybody else appears to like, and in doing so, lose your own voice. So that is where the quiet comes from. It's my own authentic voice, my own knowing, intuition, whatever you want to call it. I lost that because I was like, well, I just need to say what everybody else is saying just so I can blend
And
in. And so, yeah.
yeah. No, and it's really, really interesting because, we're so socialized as girls and women to people please, to fit
Yeah.
in, to adapt, to lose ourselves. And I would say that in a sense, that was true for me, except that I was trying to pretend to be more extroverted than I actually was. I was trying to comply with those societal norms,
Hmm.
even though it left me feeling bad. And sometimes I didn't have a choice because, you grow up in certain cultures, as a child, you do what you're told to do, right?
Yes.
And so that I think carries through into adulthood, right? And then you keep doing it. You keep
Mhm.
trying to fit in, trying to show up in the way that people expect of you. And then I had that experience when I was living in England and, for 15 plus years and working in predominantly white workplaces of, feeling that it was not okay to be the person that I was
Yeah. Yeah.
and that there was some other template that I was supposed to be following, you
Hmm.
know? So for
100%. And I
sure.
think even if it's not from an ethnic or a racial perspective, there could be another part of you that makes you feel different. And so
Yeah.
society says, well, the safest thing to do is to blend in. When actually, as leaders, as people who are building businesses, we need to stand out and be unique. And that is the thing that
Absolutely.
is like missing. And so it really was a quietness from who the heck I am. And when you
Yes.
lose that, it takes a long while to figure it out, but it's possible.
So tell me then, what flipped the switch for you in terms of fighting good girl conditioning? And then I'll talk
Mm,
about my experience.
yeah. Oh my goodness. So I think growing up, I think there was no switch that was ever flipped. I literally just did, I kind of followed the rules, worked really, really hard. As you know, I talk a lot about rest. Yeah, that is now kind of incorporated into my work. But I learned that if I just get my head down, if I just keep moving, keep doing what I'm supposed to do, keep blending in, keep fitting in, things will work out. It then became quite apparent in the corporate space that this wasn't working out for me, right? So I was doing all the things, but then I wasn't really getting some of the things that I wanted on the other side. And so it then just transpired that all I was getting was exhaustion, tiredness, burnout, and actually just this sense of low level dissatisfaction. But actually, not even realizing it until I left the corporate space and then because I got made redundant in
Yeah.
2023. And I was like, who the heck am I now without this career that I've been building for 18 years that I thought I would never
Wow.
ever leave? And so then I was like, oh, like I need to figure out who I am. And that's when it became clear that I didn't really know. Because when you're
It's
in this environment, you're like, you're just doing as everybody's doing. And you're like, but when you're on in entrepreneurship, you're on your own. You're like literally on your own, you know?
it's so interesting how late a realization
Yeah.
that can be,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because I can remember being in my mid 30s
Hmm.
and saying no to something that didn't suit me for the first time.
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was such a change, and I felt terrible. I
Yeah.
felt like, should I even be doing this? Is
Yes.
this okay to do? And I think who, um, a lot of people don't have that confidence. I'm not sure that I had it when I did it.
Hmm.
There were a number of things
Good
that
point.
happened in those years, which led me to have to make some choices about what I would
Hmm.
say yes to and what I would say
Hmm.
no to.
Hmm.
Um, and in a way, I was doing it before I was convinced of it. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah.
Right. And
I really want to pick up on that, Sharon.
yeah, before you pick up on that, I just want
Mm.
to shout out to Altagracia, who's in the comments saying appreciate this discussion. Since people pleasing comes up so much, it's a very big comment, but I'll put it up on right. Um, what comes up is trying to fit in with the world creates space where we don't fit into our own bodies. Pleasing
Mm.
others comes at the cost of disappointing ourselves. That
Yes.
is so real.
Oh
Yes,
my
anyway, you can
goodness.
pick up on that point.
No, I'm so pleased that that person made that comment. Thank you so much because there's this saying like, "Oh, I'm just going to say nothing because I'm going to keep the peace." And I have a
Mm,
really issue with that. Like, because sometimes whose peace are we keeping? because
Not
sometimes
ours,
we're not at peace
not
at
ours.
all. So I'm so
No.
pleased that person made that point. But the point I was going to say that you said, when you said no for that first time in your mid 30s, you didn't even feel confident to do it. And so that is such a key point. We don't have to wait for it to be perfect to feel confident to start shifting our behaviors and the way that we see things. If we wait for that point, I
It will
fear
never
it will
come.
never come. Like,
It will
honestly.
never come.
Yeah,
It will
yeah,
never come. And I think what I've discovered is that the more you do it, the more you start to discover
yeah.
what really works for you, what doesn't. And bear in mind that when I was growing up, there was no language around introversion. I mean, that was a really late discovery. I don't even know when I first heard people talking about introversion and
Mm,
realized that that was what it was, that that was one of the missing pieces for me.
mm,
And
mm,
so it's really a case of, okay, now I know that. Now I know I can say no to something that doesn't suit me and the world won't end. What do I do differently now?
mhm,
And then that went hand in hand with, or began to go hand in hand, because it's been a journey of with me discovering my own voice and
mm,
my own perspectives. For various reasons, I kept myself very quiet. I was trying not to stand out too much. It's all the things that you've just said, Nikki.
mhm,
And so it's really in the last 5 years, I would say, that I've
mhm,
really come into my own. Not that the process hadn't started before in my personal life, but in terms
mhm,
of doing something that is different, showing leadership, modeling. That's a very late
mhm,
thing, very late,
mhm,
very recent thing in terms of the trajectory of my life. So I'm interested to hear, once you that switch flipped for you,
mhm,
what were the immediate changes that you made?
mhm,
And then eventually, I'd like to move on to, let's talk a little bit about what we're doing differently as quiet leaders.
mhm. Yeah, so I think some of the things that this has been an ongoing discovery, and it's become really clear to me, and it's part of the work I do with female entrepreneurs, is the good girl isn't like one personality type. She is quite sneaky. She has different faces, different costumes, and the way that she shows up in how we live our life, how we run our business. And one way was in our obsession with seeking permission, right? And
Ooh.
that is such a big one. If we want to be the owner, the CEO of our company, the CEO of our lives, who are we seeking permission from? We are the permission slip. It is us. And so the way that that
I
comes
love that.
across,
We are the permission slip.
right, it is
Oh,
us.
I
And
love
so
it. I love it.
it's almost like I have been able to understand in my life and in the life of my clients, I can see where the good girl is showing up in ways that you may not even realize, in ways that you think is just being professional, being thorough, being kind, being compassionate. You may label the behavior as these things, but actually, underneath it all is your desire to seek permission or your desire to be a chameleon. Blend in, your desire to be a superwoman, do all the things, your desire to be an overachiever, to keep raising the bar, never feeling enough.
Oh,
And so,
perfectionism, the
right,
feeling of enoughness,
yes,
the idea that there's always more to do, there's always more to achieve, that
yes,
somehow whatever you do,
never
you're not
enough.
doing it right. You're not doing it right, as if,
Yeah.
in fact, there is a right other than the right that you define for yourself,
100, 100,
right?
and oh
Yes.
God, this is like we could speak on this forever, but it impacts your business, right? Because if you never
Absolutely.
feel that you're enough, you never really take a moment to ground in what you've achieved. That then is the springboard for more. So if you're always trying to climb, never feeling good enough, it actually stunts the very growth that you want.
So an interesting thing that happened, it was towards the end, I think, of my freelance career,
Mm,
um, which led quite nicely into my activism. As I came across this quote, "Done is better than perfect," which
mhm,
I have adopted as my mantra. It is kind of like, just get things out there. And so all the things in which people would perceive me as a leader, because I decided to just go for it and start a thing. I started the newsletter with one article that was meant to be cathartic for me, right? 5 years
mhm,
plus later, it's still going. I
Oh.
started a community because I felt that this was something that was needed, a polycultural community with accountability and reparations built in. A year plus later, I think we're about 13 months in now,
Mm,
still going strong. People love it. And, and now I'm thinking, okay, the next thing is there are loads of people out there like me who are introverts who have not figured out how to show up and share their voice without burning out.
mhm,
And I can be a model for them. I can be a mentor for them because this is something that I have done. This is something that I have lived. This is my everyday. This is my
yeah.
everyday. People see me doing events like this and they think, oh, you're everywhere. You've got everything sorted. You must be, are you really an introvert? They say to me. I
Mm,
say, yes, because what you don't see is the steps I take to manage my
yes.
energy behind
Yes.
the scenes so that
Yes.
I can
Yes.
show up like this. So,
Mhm,
this morning was a very quiet morning. I did not overstretch myself with work things because I knew
mhm.
I was coming on and I wanted to be at my best for our lives,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that. I love
So
that.
let us talk a little bit about doing things differently as
Hmm.
leaders. And I'm going to go first on this one and then
Yeah.
come to you because what I've discovered almost, I can't say it was fully intentional. It's kind of a function of who I am and how I move through the world, right?
Mm,
I bring I bring everything that I've learned in my various careers as a writer, as a journalist, as an educator. I bring my activism. I bring the fact that I'm a Reiki master. I bring, so I bring all of that to those spaces. And so I tend to create spaces where people can come as they are, ready to learn, open-minded, open-hearted, and then move from there. I create spaces where there's empathy, where there's an understanding that life will life sometimes, and
yeah.
that we have to be kind to each other, with a little smidgen of anti energy to say, look, it's time to get real about the things
Yeah.
that you say you want. And so that is what I bring to every space, and that's what I'm going to be bringing to the new spaces that I'm going to be creating for introverted leaders. So
Ooh.
this is, I'm very excited about this because I like these are my people. These are my people, and I am
Mm,
excited to work with them, right? And so I think, and I don't know if I'm interested to hear what you have to say. I think that when we move from people pleasing, when we fight that good girl conditioning, when we discover our voice, when we start sharing our voice, then we bring everything that we are to the spaces that we create. Um, and I know I've been in your space, so that feels very real from what I know of you, but I'm interested to hear your perspective on it.
yeah, definitely. I think one of the things that has allowed me um to really come online, to be in person and talk about the work I do, about the it really is about, it's not even about the good girl and slaying her. It is about becoming the convicted version of you. It is about, it is not about, oh, this bad good girl conditioning. It is more about, that was there to serve you at one point or another, to keep you safe in school, in the education system, in the work system. But the convicted version of you is who you were meant to be before society told you who you had to be, like the real you. And so it's easy now for me to show up in this way, because that is essentially what has allowed me to stand here, is this
That
journey towards conviction. Like, so I'm not having to make it up. I'm not having to be like, what should I say? Because I'm literally talking about what I'm having to do, the hurdles
yes,
I'm literally
yes,
climbing
yes,
to
yes.
stay in my conviction, in my power, and not get swayed by whether somebody likes, claps, buys, doesn't buy. I'm like on a mission, right? And so
I
this is the thing.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that. I think of it as embodiment of
Yes,
all that
that's
you
it.
are,
That's it. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And yeah, I when situations come up, I don't have to. I'm not looking to somebody else for their answers. I know what I feel. I know what
Mhm.
I know, and that is the lens through which I'm now talking to other people, right?
Yeah.
I'm saying, okay, this is what it is. This is what it is
Yes.
from the perspective of Sharon. you know, you will have your own perspective, and that is
Mhm.
okay too.
Mhm.
But here is what I'm bringing everything that I've learned in 6 decades on the planet. Can you believe it?
Mm.
So,
Woo!
yes, to the spaces that we share together, to the advice that I give, to
Yeah.
learning how to do this thing introverted and quiet and still be good, still be
Yeah.
fine, still be more than fine,
Yeah.
still and not feel that you have to change yourself, not feel that you have to perform extroversion in order to
Mhm.
share your message in the service of your mission.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally
Right?
agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I think it becomes so much easier to show up, even on a live like this, or on a masterclass, or in person, when you are just who you are.
Yeah.
And so then you don't really have to go, oh, who did I say that I was going to be again? And you don't have to think about it. Um, but it is the thing to note before I guess you kind of close things off is the conditioning is deep. And so
Okay.
every single time you stretch yourself in your life or business, you're confronted with lifing or a challenge with your clients, your money, whatever it is, your health, you will sometimes find that the very thing you thought you'd gotten rid of is right back here, right back in another costume, in another coat. And
Absolutely.
what I hope to give to the people I work with is the skills to spot it much quicker.
Yeah.
So that you don't make a story up about what it means about you and your capabilities. You can spot what's happening and you know how to move through it because we're not going to get rid of it. We're just going to get better at spotting it, slaying it, as I say, and moving
Yeah.
through it in with conviction because it doesn't matter how many strategies, how many templates, how many plans you have. If you lack conviction and certainty, like nobody,
and,
nobody
and
buys it.
and honestly, you're so right. It comes up again and again every time. For all of us out here, and it is okay. It is okay for that to be the case if you know how to spot it, if you know how to deal with it, if you know how to move past the self-doubt, and if you know
Yeah,
how to get help from people who have walked the path
yeah, yeah.
instead of trying to go it alone, which is a lesson that keeps coming back to me because I've been very bad at
Right?
asking for help.
Yeah.
The lesson that keeps coming back, and I keep relearning, right? And actually, that is one of the lessons I would like people to take away is that you don't have to change yourself, shrink yourself, um, in order to serve your mission, in order to share your
Mm,
message. And it is okay to get help to remind you when you forget
mhm.
of how amazing you are and how
Yes.
important the work you do is. And
Yes.
so, just before we close, would you like to leave the people who are tuning in and our
Mm,
team replay folks with a final lesson from your perspective,
mm.
Nikki?
I think it's something that I found myself saying. I didn't say it initially as like a mantra, but it ends up being the thing I come back to, and it starts with you. It always
Yeah.
starts with you. And when you can learn to build the self trust, the self belief, the conviction muscle, like nobody, you'll be unstoppable. You will get
Yes.
uh, blown, shaken. But when you truly believe and you have that, nobody can take it away. And like you will be a force to be reckoned with. And that is what I want for people to remember that it starts with them. And it takes time, right?
Yes. And I really want people to remember, my fellow introverts, that it is possible to have an impact without exhaustion.
Yes.
Absolutely possible. It is possible to do what you have to do and still thrive and look after yourself.
Mhm,
Okay,
mhm.
so we've got a couple minutes left. So why don't you tell the folks a little bit about your two spaces, and then I'll
Yes.
talk about my spaces, and then we'll be out.
Awesome, awesome. So, if you've been listening and you've been nodding along and you've been thinking, my goodness, I've got some of these good girl vibes. I'm an overachiever. I'm a perfectionist. I'm a permission seeker. The list goes on. And you're like, you know what? I really want to do something that's going to make sure that I take my power back. This is what it's about. Because you may think that these voices in your head telling you that you have to get it 100% right before you put it out in the world. Sharon has told us that's not the case. So, one of the ways that I can support you is I've got this 3 day one-to-one intensive. It is called the C blocker. Make your own mind up about that word, what that word means for LinkedIn audiences. But sometimes we C block, we clock block, okay, our own selves. And we get in the way of us achieving our goals, realizing our potential. So in 3 days, I'm going to be able to work with you on one micro area to unblock that, take back your power, so that you can absolutely capitalize on your cash, on your impact. The other one is come into my free Telegram group. Hear more about what I've got to say. It is called the conviction room, and it is somewhere that I drop into at least once or twice a week. I share what's been going on, and I share the real. I don't pretend it's all glossy. I let you know what's going on, how I'm learning, what I'm picking up from my clients. So Sharon's dropped some of those links in there. We'll probably drop it in the replay chat afterwards. So come and say hello, connect with me. Thank you so much for having me on, Sharon. This has been so much fun.
Oh, this has been an absolute delight, Nikki, and long overdue. And people wanting to connect with me can, of course, find me on LinkedIn, but also check out my various levels of support for introverts, from a quick clarity boost call to my self-expression day, which does mindset work along with content strategy to help you get your message out there, to have a plan with accountability built in. It is a one-to-one experience, the self-expression day, and it works. It works. The last person that did it got a project completed in a month that they'd been stuck on for six. So
Mm.
come check it out. Work with us, work with me, work with Nikki, and we are so delighted that you are here. Um,
Ah, thank
Thank you so
you.
much. I'm just going to pop up this last comment from Zelda. Thanks for being here. Self-trust and the self-belief muscle needs to be strengthened.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Zelda. Yeah, definitely connect with me. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Sharon. This has been the most fun this afternoon. Thank you, everyone who's listening on live or replay.
Thank you so much. We are going to be out in a second. I'm just going to invite you to join